Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Stretch! You can put it on the board! Yes!
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all natural, dry-aged USDA, prime Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all those gigantic and massive cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in everybody listening in on all of our radio and television affiliates. I should say watching on our television affiliates. Everybody also streaming on Pick Your Favorite Streamer, also on Facebook, Chicago Food Favorites. Check out Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Talk about your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes, your favorite foods. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. And by the way, our friends over at Vacation Buddies wants to give you a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas or in Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri. If you can answer a simple trivia question, this is the question. If you have the answer, call 888-576-5777. Which of these NBA superstars won 6 NBA titles? Is it A, Magic Johnson, B, Larry Bird, C, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or D, Michael Jordan? If you know the answer, again, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want you to have a couple of nights in Las Vegas, Orlando, or Branson, Missouri. If you know the answer to that simple trivia question, 888-576-5777. So as the applause continues on, we have a lot to discuss, and it is about the possibility of Major League Baseball expansion. Yes, that's right. That is something that's been on the table for quite some time, and you can find this on Pick Your Favorite news source or media outlet or whatnot. Look, there has been a lot of discussion about Major League Baseball expansion, and we have seen the case for 9 cities. 9 different cities in 3 countries for Major League Baseball. That's right, 3. So according to Fox Sports, they say before there could be a realignment, there needs to be expansion. Now, I don't know about that. There can be a realignment without expansion. But then again, that's what Fox Sports has to say. So if you look at the divisions as they stand, in the American League, which one is out of place? Well, frankly, you can really take the Tampa Bay Rays and put them in a southern kind of a division. That's it. In the American League Central, you could possibly put the Cleveland Guardians in possibly an eastern type of a division, or maybe even a north division. It's just like Toronto. I guess if there was a north, maybe you could put them in the north, whatever. In the American League West, who could you put in a different division? The Houston Astros. That's about it, because everybody else is essentially on the West Coast. So that displaces a couple, 3 teams. How about the National League? What do you have over there? In the National League East, maybe the Marlins, because they're south, and the Atlanta Braves, they're south, could be sent to a southern kind of a division. In the National League Central, maybe the Pittsburgh Pirates can move to an east. If you're going to move potentially Cleveland in the American League, you could probably move the Pirates to an eastern kind of division, or maybe even a northern division. In the National League West, the only team that makes sense to potentially move would be the Rockies out of that division because they're in a different time zone. They're on Mountain Time, whereas everybody else is on, well, partly. Everybody's on Mountain, or everybody's on Pacific Time. And I say that because Arizona does not change their clocks. And so when they have daylight savings time, they remain on the same time. So technically, they go from the West Coast to, I guess you would say, Mountain Time. So they're now 1 hour ahead. So if you look at these divisions, the only thing you could really do, maybe, is I would venture to guess you could put them in hockey's, or in, I would say, in the NFL's model of North, South, East, and West. Maybe that makes a little bit of sense. So when you look at the possibilities for these different cities, and they're kicking around the idea for Charlotte, North Carolina, Mexico City, Montreal, Nashville, Oakland, Portland, Sacramento, Salt Lake City, and San Antonio. So as we look at these a little bit closer, let's take a look real quick at Charlotte, North Carolina. So a Charlotte team would have a ton of fans and plenty of media behind it from the start. So it's no wonder, of course, that the Carolina Hurricanes owner Tom Dundon has shown an interest in bringing Major League Baseball to Charlotte in the recent past. So North Carolina, of course, is no stranger to professional baseball. It currently hosts 9 Major League Baseball teams, including 4 in the Carolina League, as well as an additional 3 Major League Baseball partner clubs on the independent circuit. So the AAA affiliate of the White Sox, or the Charlotte Knights, of course, that is the team that plays right in the heart of Charlotte. And of course, think about this. The National Football League's Carolina Panthers and NBA Charlotte Hornets are located there too. So now you've got essentially, you've got all 12 months covered. And so the NFL's Carolina Panthers and NBA Charlotte Hornets are located there, as I mentioned. And well, guess what? Not too terribly far north over in Raleigh are the Carolina Hurricanes. So I guess North Carolina would make a little bit of sense. And there's also several soccer clubs, from Major League Soccer to the National Women's Team to various leagues and outfits on the men's and women's side are available there also. So of all the American cities on the list that I mentioned, it has the largest media market, and its metro population places it between the likes of Denver, Baltimore, and St. Louis. So it's more of a secondary market. So it shouldn't be discounted either that Raleigh, as I mentioned, where the Hurricanes play, is also technically an in-state city where its significant metro population does reside in the Research Triangle Park. So as you look at these locations, you say, all right, I could see Charlotte as a real candidate. What does that do to professional baseball on the Major League Baseball level during the regular season? Does it take away, for example, from the Charlotte Knights? Do the Charlotte Knights move? Now, at Las Vegas, a very similar problem when the Athletics come to town. Well, guess what? There's already AAA baseball for the Athletics in the Las Vegas Aviators. And Las Vegas has been a long time home for AAA baseball. And that goes back to the Las Vegas 51s for the New York Mets. Even before that, the Las Vegas Stars. So my point is that going to affect Charlotte's AAA team? I'm going to say it is. And the bigger question is, where do the Knights move to? The White Sox would have to make some accommodation, and maybe that accommodation is to bring them possibly a little bit closer to Chicagoland. The problem is you have weather issues, and then you also think of travel between the other locations. Now, in fact, it was the Las Vegas 51s that was the New York Mets AAA team. Now, imagine that. You're talking over 2,000 miles, point to point, between the AAA location and the big club. And so it was the 51s that relocated to Western New York. So now their baseball team is a hell of a lot closer for AAA. So that commuter flight between AAA and the bigs is a very short distance. And so they made a big change. So what would happen in the case that the White Sox would have to have their team play in the same city, which it wouldn't happen? And the bigger question is, what happens to the Charlotte Knights? Where do they go to? They can't go to Indianapolis because that's the home of the AAA Pittsburgh Pirates. You have to think about that one. And what about some of the other area teams? I don't know. I mean, the problem is there's Major League Baseball all over the place. You can't take them necessarily to Iowa because that would bring the Cubs AAA team under some kind of a competition. I mean, would they maybe go to somewhere in central Illinois? I don't know. And these are the questions you have to ask because, again, the Athletics are going to face the exact same issue. How do they handle their move when the Athletics move to Las Vegas? I imagine that the AAA team for the Las Vegas Athletics would likely relocate to either Cedar City, Utah, because there's a major airport there. Well, not a major airport, but there is airport service, domestic airport service there. So either to Cedar City, Utah, St. George, Utah, maybe there's a university there, or possibly Kingman, Arizona, where I think Kingman, Arizona, to me, makes more sense. They do have an airport there. It's a major intersection of interstates, Interstate 40, and, of course, you have the extension now of Interstate 11, and so it makes a little bit of sense, too. So the question is, do they have enough population there to substantiate that? That's why maybe Cedar City, Utah makes more sense. All right, back here in a few minutes on the Sports Circus. Going to continue with this baseball expansion discussion in just a few. Don't go anywhere. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Check them out, folks. All right, welcome in to everybody listening in on all of our affiliates, including our special friends over in the greater Atlanta market on WDJY 99.1 FM. Thanks for waking up with us. Over in Auburn, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, Columbus, Georgia, thanks for driving home with us. Listening in on WAUD 1230 on the AM dial. That's home of the Atlanta Braves. And, of course, all the way up and down through the Midwest out to the West Coast. Everybody listening in on Highway Country Radio 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM. Thanks for joining us between Las Vegas and Los Angeles on Interstate 15, as well as up to Anchorage, Alaska, all the way down to Honolulu, CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the 49ers, Yankees, and Alabama Crimson Tide. Plus everybody else watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, and independent cable affiliates in select markets. Thanks for joining us there and on Hotel TV where applicable. And, of course, the Mars Rover. All right. And by the way, folks, in case you're just tuning in the last segment, right at the top of the show, we mentioned our friends over at Vacation Buddies. They'd want to give you a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas or in Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri, if you know the answer to the simple trivia question. And if you do, call 888-576-5777. We're going to read it again in case you're just tuning in. Which of these NBA superstars won 6 NBA titles? Is it A, Magic Johnson, B, Shaquille O'Neal? Better yet, let's go with B. I'm already giving you a little bit of break here. B, Larry Bird. C, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And D, Michael Jordan. If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a shot at a couple of nights right here in Vegas or in Branson, Missouri, or in Orlando, Florida. If you know the answer to that very simple trivia question, which one of those NBA superstars won 6 titles? A, Magic Johnson, B, Larry Bird, C, Shaquille O'Neal, or D, Michael Jordan? All right, folks, you already know the answer. Call 888-576-5777. All right, back to this baseball expansion idea. So we already went over Charlotte being a pretty good candidate in the grand scheme of things, and I do that because just Rob Manfred is not somebody that I am a real big follower of. But expansion of Charlotte may make a little sense with a couple accommodations here or there. How about this one? Now, this one is always an interesting one. Look, Mexico City has been at the forefront of a discussion for just about the last decade or so. And so way back about 9 years ago, the commissioner mentioned North America's most populous city as an international expansion possibility. Consider its sheer size, over 9 million residents, nearly a full million more than New York. Wow, the metro area has nearly 22 million people. That makes it the 6th largest in the entire world. So the whole region is so heavily populated that despite being a big city, it has the same federally recognized rights as Mexico's 31 states in the first place. Wow. So if Mexico City were to host a Major League Baseball team, be prepared for a stadium that makes Denver's Coors Field. And listen, Coors Field is a very large field. In case you've never been there, it is massive. To me, it just kind of looks like a shopping mall. I've been in there a couple times, and man, is it big. Anyway, so its altitude is even higher than the Mile High City on top of it. So when you're comparing Coors Field with maybe a stadium in Mexico City, look, there's a drastic difference in population, and it would have to be a massive, massive stadium that could hold at least, I would guess, 80,000 upward. So, of course, there is a feasible stadium as Estadio Alfredo Harp Helú. And that has hosted big league games in the last couple of years or so as part of the Major League Baseball Mexico City series. Now, if you haven't seen these games, it is really something. And I can tell you, I previously played ball down there, and not at that stadium, but I've played ball in Mexico, and I know the climate is very, very different. And the games, in my opinion, are a hell of a lot more fun. It's just my opinion. And as a player and as a fan, just the games are just more fun, just like they are in Japan. Every pitch over there seems to be like the World Series. But the problem for Mexico City, however, is not a lack of potential fans, but that the commissioner also said a couple of years ago that he has, quote, never been close to the idea of Mexico as an expansion opportunity, close quote, which is not the same thing as saying it can never happen. Nothing has been close, but also Major League Baseball hasn't expanded or actively attempted to during that stretch either. So you say, well, what is the enticement? Well, what is the holy grail for Major League Baseball? Money, media, that's it. Now think about this. If you look at the makeup of Major League Baseball, so let's go MLB players demographic. All right, so I'm going to do this with you, and let's see what we come up with here. Let's just say demographic by country. All right, so that's probably a fair thing, and I'm using that search engine that rhymes with noodle, and I think you know what it is. So what they say is the most common countries of origin for Major League Baseball players after the United States are the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, and Cuba. Other significant countries with players in the league include Puerto Rico, which is still the U.S., Canada, and Japan, with representation also from Mexico, Panama, Curacao, and more. And the number of international players varies by season, but these countries consistently provide a strong pipeline of talent to Major League Baseball. And so they say here is a snapshot of the players' representation by country from recent Major League Baseball opening day rosters. The U.S., of course, with over 1,000. That's right, from opening day forward. Dominican Republic, 108 players from the DR. Venezuela, 63 players open as of opening day. Cuba, 26 players on those opening day rosters. Puerto Rico, which doesn't count really because that's the U.S. That's another 16 added to the 1,000 for the United States. Canada, 13 players. Japan, another 12 players. And then a whole bunch more from Mexico, Curacao, Panama, South Korea, Aruba, Australia, Colombia, the Bahamas, Germany, Honduras, Nicaragua, and South Africa. All right, so what does a lot of these countries have in common? They are heavily brought in through Latin America. So let's talk about the DR. Then we have Venezuela, then Cuba. They count Puerto Rico, but it's the U.S., but let's just count them anyway. All right, so far that's 4. Now how about Mexico? Curacao, Panama, Aruba, Colombia, and let's add Honduras, Nicaragua. So you're talking 11 additional countries. 11 countries. So the argument is actually quite simple. Not everybody wants to come to the U.S. if they don't have to go watch a baseball game. What if you happen to live in Costa Rica? And let's say, maybe I want to go to a Major League Baseball game, or I go to Belize. Belize, their first language is English. All right, so let's just take Belize. That's even closer. So Belize being right next door to Mexico off the Yucatan Peninsula, you say, well, maybe I want to go to a big league game, and I don't want to travel all the way up to maybe Houston or up to San Diego. Maybe I want to go, to Mexico City. Well, guess what? It's not that far of a flight from Belize to Mexico City. And see, these are the questions that you have to ask yourself. And what about if you have family or friends? And I know somebody, for example, that is from Colombia. And the family would have to go technically up to Miami, for example, to watch this particular player play when he was playing there. In fact, we had him on the show previously. That was Jorge Alfaro. So Jorge is a catcher in the grand scheme of things, but let's just say maybe he's playing hypothetically on the team in Mexico City, if there was one there. So Jorge his family and his friends or whatnot, they would only have to go from Colombia up to Mexico City rather than all the way up to Miami in this particular case, or the farm club for Milwaukee or something to that effect. My point is, for all those people that are outside the U.S., it makes it a good option for them to be able to go potentially to Mexico City. So does it make financial sense? Yes, they'll make plenty of money. And there's a lot of sponsorship money from pick your favorite organization over there. I'll tell you what, even when I'm drinking Coca-Cola, I drink Mexican Coke. I don't drink the American Coke because the Coke from Mexico that's made in Mexico is made with cane sugar rather than saccharin. And it's actually better for you if you can actually imagine that. But the point is, there's not as much garbage in the food down there, so they would probably be serving healthier to a degree, some kind of healthier snacks for concession, and it would be a fun experience. And I actually would get behind the idea of Mexico City hosting a baseball team. So if you look at the travel of it, and when you look at from Houston or Dallas down to Mexico City, or from LA to Mexico City, or even Phoenix from Mexico City, it's not that far, folks. It's a hell of a lot shorter than going from New York to LA. Think about that. Or from Seattle to Miami, which is the longest flight for a pairing of baseball teams. So Mexico City may make a little sense. All right, when we come back from break, we're going to go ahead and go north of the border. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it out here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time. That's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. How do you not love that music? I'm Tom Brenneman.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas, here in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows which could be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, plus all the others. Also, make sure you check out the partners page at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great partners over there, and one of those, our favorite, is Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. And if you can't make it over there for some fine food, check them out at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com, and tell them the circus sent you. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know who you are. In the last segment, talking about Mexico City as the possibility of a Major League Baseball location. I got to tell you, folks, I'm kind of into the idea. It makes a little bit of sense to me. And I think they would be an enormous draw. The distance isn't that far. And let's face it, it's not really a strange thing for baseball to be outside the U.S. because what do we have? Well, we've got the Toronto Blue Jays north of the border. But remember, we used to also have the Montreal Expos way back in the day. And you ask yourself, whatever happened there? Well, they say there was no fan support, and they just weren't drawing enough at the old Olympic Stadium. And plus, they played on that painted cement, which was kind of like, it was allegedly AstroTurf, which that's what it was, but it was like playing on painted cement. And the bigger question is, could Montreal support a baseball team if given a second shot? These are always the questions with some of these other cities. And so, how about Montreal? So, Fox Sports says, we'd love to see the return of the Expos and the beloved mascot, Youppi. From 1969 to 2004, Canada's second largest city and media market on top of it, behind Toronto, was home to the Expos before moving to Washington, D.C. and becoming the Washington Nationals in 2005. So with fresh ownership in place, however, it's possible Big League Baseball could work in Montreal again as it turns, I guess, the page on what it was, and let's just try to keep redrawing this and redrawing that. So look at it this way. They did draw over 2 million fans per season on a handful of occasions. So it's not like they can't draw. And so you think of the rivalries of what they were before. And maybe that was the New York Mets and the Montreal Expos, maybe the Phillies and the Expos. And we think of players that have gone between teams, the Pete Roses of the world, the this one, the that one. And you say, well, is there really any incentive to bring the Expos back? I mean, look, there's been private equity groups attempting to bring back Major League Baseball to Montreal, as well as most recently when the Tampa Bay Rays were considering a split season as a solution to their ballpark woes involving both St. Pete and, yes, Montreal. But any return to Montreal would require a new venue, as, of course, that old stadium, the old Olympic Stadium, is well behind any Major League ballpark as far as accommodations and everything else. So the commissioner had also spoken in the past about the possibility of further expanding Major League Baseball on an international level, and even mentioned Montreal specifically as a place where, quote, we could go plan on a sustained basis. Okay, so look, close quote, by the way. We could go plan on a sustained basis. I don't know. I mean, that just sounds like, look, either commit or don't commit to it. And the big question is going to be, Will the fans embrace it? Some of the old traditionalists, like I'm an old head for baseball. I like old traditional baseball. But then again, if that's the case, I'm going to say, hey, let's bring back the Boston Braves. Let's send them back through Milwaukee, back to Boston from Atlanta, if that's the case, if this is what you're going to do. And then let's bring the Colt 45s back down in Texas. Let's bring them back. And let's bring back the old St. Louis Browns and all this other stuff. So that's all not a reality whatsoever. But the question is, would the fans embrace it? I think they would, because it's been, 20 years since Major League Baseball has been played in Montreal. So I'm not really sure economically if it's in the best interest of Major League Baseball to go back to a place where it failed. And I'm going to make the same argument for Oakland. I'm going to group Oakland with this because Oakland, they were on the list of 9 cities for potential expansion. I don't see how Oakland solves their problem when their mayor, here's the crazy thing about Oakland. I'm going to just spin off here for a minute so we don't have to cover Oakland later. The reality is the mayor of Oakland said, well, we're a baseball city first. That's Libby Schaff. We're a baseball city first. And so we let the Warriors, go over to the peninsula. We let the Raiders go. We let the Raiders go to Las Vegas. And we're going to focus on what? We're going to focus on baseball. Oh, by the way, when it came to it, we need a new stadium, says the Oakland Athletics world. No, sorry, we're not going to do that. We're not going to spend money on that. And so the Athletics moved to Sacramento to play where the River Cats play. And their final destination, of course, is Las Vegas. So the question is, which of course it broke ground the stadium and it's under construction. The bigger question lies with the city of Oakland in the same light as the city of Montreal. Do they have what it takes from a fan base? I'm not going to argue against that because I think the fans are the fans. But the fans didn't really come out that much unless it was a big deal. And this is what I see with the Montreal Expos. I think it's a novelty. People will buy their season tickets and then they won't go to the games, and then the stadium will still be relatively empty, which means the team will still make the money. The TV contracts will be there, but the bigger problem is they're going to be playing 2 half-empty stadiums. That is the big problem. And we had the same issue in Oakland where the fans, they did come out, but they didn't come out and support like they do the San Francisco Giants on their side of the peninsula. Right? So over on the San Francisco Peninsula, yes, they get plenty of fans. And the same issue was with the Raiders. The Raiders didn't draw, not that much, and they had a good history, but the 49ers drew. In fact, so well from the stick, they went and did what? They built themselves a stadium down in Palo Alto, that Levi Stadium. So the 49ers even left the downtown San Francisco area, well, right by the airport, just north of the airport. My point is, can Oakland sustain it? I don't think so, because I don't think there's enough interest to do it. Can Montreal sustain it? There may be some temporary interest. There will be some financial interest, but I don't think that they would be playing to that many crowds. I mean, let's face it, they're going to have a dome because what? The weather gets a little bit cold up there in March, because now they're playing baseball in March, and all the way up to the end of September, October. So the question is, are they going to get snowed out? That's a real possibility. They can get snowed out in Montreal. And remember, hockey season is in full force by the Canadiens. And that in itself is sort of like competing with, the Dodgers or the Yankees with their 27 World Series. And then you try to put the New York Mets in the same discussion. You can't. Because the Yankees won 27 World Series. You can't take it away from them. The Montreal Canadiens have won a whole bunch of Stanley Cups, more than any other team. Well, guess what? Now the Expos technically would be running into their season at the end of the season, and they would be still playing baseball at the end of the hockey season. Mind you, hockey, if it goes from front to back, well, hockey will take you all the way into June. Who's going to get all the media there? It seems to me that the Montreal Expos over the Montreal Expos would not get the coverage over the Montreal Canadiens, because the Canadiens are the favorite in that city. Why? Because they win. Last I checked, the Expos don't have a World Series win. And their playoff, well, let's put it this way. They did have some playoff teams. They had some good players. The problem is they never had that World Series championship type of a roster that actually delivered. They've had great players, but they just couldn't put it together. So the fans are likely to spend their money watching the Canadiens, who can win. That's right. Oh, and by the way, they have a football team over there too, in case you're keeping score. So the hockey season is one side of it. Then you have the football season is another one, but then baseball would somehow fit in the middle there. And I think people that would go would be going to see the other team. So maybe the Mets came to town, or the Dodgers, or the Yankees, or even the Cubs. The point is, I think they would be there for everybody but the Expos. And I just don't think the Expos are really going to be an option. In the same light, I don't believe that Oakland will get another baseball team, only for the same reasons, plus the fact that the mayor seemingly doesn't want to put another stadium there unless they're counting on getting that mayor out of there or getting somebody else. But reality is there's already been political pushback. So who's to say that's going to change anytime soon? And remember, these stadiums now cost upwards towards $2 billion to construct. So Oakland, it is a relatively not wealthy city. Let's leave it like that. Montreal, they have plenty of money. Fan interest would be another issue. All right, folks, back here in a few minutes. We're going to head on down to Nashville and talk about Nashville as well. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today. Don't let your retirement accounts get caught off guard by trade and tariff wars. Learn why a Genesis Gold IRA is the number one choice for thousands of Americans across the nation. 800-709-4423. 800-709-4423. 800-709-4423. That's 800-709-4423.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Big welcome back to everybody on radio and TV. I'm going to get right back into it right away, folks, with this topic of the possibility of teams maybe being formed in one of these other cities. So there was something that came out on Fox, and they were talking about 9 different locations of where cities could potentially have Major League Baseball stadiums and new teams and whatnot. And what we had covered so far was Charlotte was a real possibility. Mexico City, I thought was a real possibility. I think Montreal is absolutely not a possibility. Same thing with Oakland. I don't see Oakland getting another team. But now I said we're going to go down to Nashville because Nashville is one of those cities that I think they actually could do it. Look, and they're already looking for a Major League Baseball team. Of course, with the Music City Baseball Project aiming to name the team after the Negro League club, the Stars. Major League Baseball recently played a regular season game in Tennessee, albeit not Nashville, when the Braves and Reds played in the first Speedway game at Bristol Motor Speedway. And that was a Ravens success. Never mind the fact that they were rained out, but then they came back the next day and played it anyway. And so, yeah, whether it was played in Nashville or not doesn't really matter. Tennessee's capital and largest city is around the size of Washington, D.C. and Denver, with a metro area that compares to possibly Cleveland, Kansas City, or Cincinnati. And the NFL's Titans already play there, as you know, and so do the Predators from the NHL. And so it may make a little sense. They also have a Major League Soccer club there, too. And they already have a long history of AAA. They have the Nashville Sounds, if I'm not mistaken. That's AAA Milwaukee Brewers, from what I recall. And, of course, thanks to the existing sports teams, the media market is already on par with that of Pittsburgh and Baltimore. So does Nashville make sense? Yes. Nashville absolutely makes sense as another location for a team. And you have to determine they're going to have only 2 expansion teams max. You're not going to see more than that. So out of this 9, how many from a certain part of the country are going to be involved? And I would almost say that you'll see 2 from very different geographic areas, and it's kind of like they have to do it. Because remember, at the very top of the show, I said, yeah, what about the National League teams that are going to potentially move? How could they could maybe move the Marlins and Braves to a South, maybe a Southern division. Maybe the Pirates from the National League Central could go over to the East. And possibly in the National League, we'll say maybe the Rockies could move too, because they're the furthest. They're in the Mountain Time Zone. Well, they're the furthest east anyway. Arizona would be closer in Phoenix. So it would make sense for Denver's team, the Rockies, to go elsewhere. Over in the American League, you start thinking about a north, south, east, west. The north would, of course, be occupied by the Blue Jays. And I would also argue that you could probably put the Guardians in the north and possibly the Seattle Mariners. The problem is the geographic setup would be very disadvantageous to the Mariners. So that wouldn't really work. But the big question is, with the teams moving around, the Tampa Bay Rays would probably go to a Southern division, and they would probably have to join, I'm going to guess, the Atlanta Braves and the Miami Marlins in the South. So what does that leave? Another team in the South, at least a Southern region. So I think they're going to go to a same setup like the NFL has, with 4 divisions, north, south, east, west. And that's the whole realignment discussion anyway. So does Charlotte make sense in that? Yes, they do. Does Nashville make sense in that? Yes, they do. Does Mexico City make sense for that? Yes, they do. Does Montreal? They do, but I don't think they're going to garner the support that they need. So that said, Nashville checks the boxes. Now, how about some of these others? How about Portland? Now, Portland, I think, is a market that has a real good shot because it creates a regional rivalry with the Seattle Mariners. Because remember, the American League is having some movement already with the Athletics going down to Las Vegas. And so what does that leave? That leaves no nearby rival for Seattle. So now it puts Portland and Seattle on par with one another with rivals. So Portland was a potential landing spot for the Expos back in the early part of the century. Also, it was unclear whether the Marlins would get the funding needed for a new stadium. So Portland once again came up as a possible destination. And they've got 2.5 million people in its metro and can support something much larger than the Diamondbacks' high A-ball team that they currently have. So the Seattle Mariners, as I mentioned, are technically all alone in the Northwest, but they don't have to be. Portland actually is the most populous city in Oregon. It makes a little sense. There's plenty of money there, too. And I'm sure, just in my opinion, with all the money that Nike brings to the table for the state of Oregon and what they do for the University of Oregon, I would imagine if there's a baseball team there, it might even be Nike Stadium for all I know. Who the hell knows? But anyway, think about this. Portland is only second behind Seattle as far as American cities in their region, not to mention a natural rivalry, as I mentioned, of course. So there are groups actively working to bring Major League Baseball to Portland, and the governor of Oregon signed a bill recently promising $800 million towards the construction of a new stadium should they end up with a team. I think that is a viable opportunity, and that's for a team that would be, of course, in the Northwest, but it would be a team that would technically check a box for along the Pacific region. Therefore, that would make the Colorado Rockies a team to move elsewhere, even though you've got American League, National League. What about Salt Lake City? This is the same argument. Now, Salt Lake City has the new franchise, or better yet, the moved franchise from the Arizona Coyotes from the National Hockey League. So think about this. For the longest time, remember, they have the Salt Lake Bees over there, which is the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim of Orange County, the Orange Curtain of Interstate 5 of the Santa Ana Riverbed, longest name of sports. The LA Angels have their AAA team there as the Salt Lake Bees. So for the longest time, Utah wasn't seen as a destination for major pro sports, only with the Jazz taking up residence. And that, of course, changed with, obviously, the hockey team. That is now the Utah Mammoth. They renamed them. And, there, of course, there is a Major League Soccer team there, Real Salt Lake. They're also there, plus the National Women's Utah Royals Football Club. So next could be very well maybe a Major League Baseball team. Salt Lake makes a concerted push for one, maybe two, for the point that they have proposed ballparks construction. There's a lot of money up there, too. They, I think, can handle it. And the city has just a couple of 100,000 people. The metro area, about 1.3 million. It puts them kind of in the size of Milwaukee, maybe even San Diego. Can they do it? They can do it. Do they have the money to do it? No question. They have the money to do it. And I think these are the questions we need to be asking. What about Sacramento? Sacramento has AAA San Francisco Giants or the Sacramento River Cats. Now, they also have a very wide stretch in their media market. Think about this one. Now, there's already a Major League Baseball team in Sacramento, as I mentioned, being the Athletics, and there are extenuating circumstances, of course, and the A's are only there for temporary, right? And they will move, of course, Las Vegas. But if Sacramento was to get a team, that would mean that the crowd from the East Bay up in the Bay, where the Athletics used to be in Oakland, that would mean that they have an alternative for a local Major League Baseball team. Now, that makes a little bit of sense right there. So it's not like the A's just pulled up and took over the stadium without permission. No, I mean, they're sharing that club or that stadium with the River Cats, which is baseball, but again, that's their AAA team. So now, for the city to get expansion team, it would need a brand new ballpark, if not at first, then at least eventually, because obviously Big League Baseball is being played at the River Cat Stadium, and you could see Major League Baseball wanting to make it happen. However, it's the sixth largest city in California, with the third largest metro population, and it's been Portland and Pittsburgh on a national level, and it's right behind Miami and Cleveland in media market size. So yes, they can stretch into the Bay Area for media, which is big. The problem is there's already a AAA team there, and there's not a lot of incentive for that to happen. So I don't see Sacramento getting a team. I just don't. How about San Antonio? And so you can make the same, discussion. San Antonio is the second largest city in Texas, though. Already has the Spurs and a UFL's Brahmas and USL San Antonio Football Club. So it's between San Diego and Kansas City in size, media market size, while this metro puts it ahead of Portland, Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, Cincinnati, and more cities that are either vying for an MLB expansion club or already have their own. But remember, like Charlotte and Raleigh, San Antonio also is another major city nearby that could help sweeten the pot, and that would be Austin. So they are right near each other in media market size and ranked directly next to each other in metro population. So that may make a little sense too. Even a stadium built in San Antonio itself would be around 90 minutes from fans in Austin, which is to say, well, let's face it, no further than many in New England that want to go to the Red Sox game or somewhere else right there in the vicinity. So there's already a group attempting to bring Major League Baseball to Austin. I just don't think it's going to happen. They're not going to have 3 baseball teams down there so quickly, maybe in another round of expansion in another decade or whatever the hell it is. But what makes the most sense would probably be, if you're going to keep it within the continental United States, it would probably be Nashville and it would probably be Portland. Charlotte does make sense, but Charlotte already has AAA just like Nashville does. But Nashville is more attractive because it's central in geography to the U.S. Now, on the other side, we think about they could actually go to a South Division, an East Division, stay in a Central Division, a North Division. There's all kinds of places they could go to. So that is a very versatile city for a lot of reasons. Now, I still like the idea of Mexico City because that makes a lot of sense. And they're going to want to expand to international play. The problem is there will be a lot of people complaining if there's an expansion outside the U.S. for the U.S. cities that actually want baseball. And I do believe that Portland is going to be a team that's going to get a franchise. They have the money. They have the argument. It makes a lot of sense to put one in Portland. And certainly for the Pacific Northwest, it doesn't leave Seattle on an island, a very good Seattle team. It makes a hell of a lot of sense. So my best guess is it will be Portland. It will be Nashville. Everybody else, they may make a valiant effort. And who knows? Maybe in another round. I just don't think there's going to be expansion more than 2 teams, but it will be 2 teams. It will not be 1. Think about that one, folks. Well, guess what? That is going to do it for the circus today. You could chop up this however you want, whatever your baseball opinion is. It is what it is. But we have a working model right now in the NFL for 4 divisions on either side, north, south, east, and west. I think that's what's coming to baseball in a couple of years or so. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Anyway, we're out of time. We'll see you in 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.